Before I start, I must say, and I've got to say this, Dr. Jacqueline Yu, what an amazing venue you have secured for us for today's event. And as Jacqueline said, this venue dates back to 1455 and was built for the Guild of St. Christopher and St. George. And we could tell you, we could spend all day talking about the stories of things that have happened here, but we're going to be talking about the future, Sustainable Futures Forum. And I'm so privileged to be here welcoming everybody, ladies, gentlemen, friends, guests, colleagues, and also the Lord Mayor. And we're going to be, it's a day of activity. There's some fantastic panels, people who've got great experience of building good, responsible business. And that's why we're here, to share ideas, really set us on the next trajectory. And again, thank you, Jacqueline, for organising everything. So I'm Bob Doherty. I'm the Dean of the School for Business and Society, which was formed about 2.5 years ago. And it brought together the School of Management and the Department of Social Policy and Social Work at the University of York, really to take an interdisciplinary look at tackling problems such as poverty, climate change, problems in the food system, so on and so forth. We face a lot of challenges, complex societal challenges, and we need to bring disciplines together to tackle those. And this event is a manifestation of that, where we're bringing people together from different perspectives who are really tackling the issues of responsible business and sustainability. This event is very close to our heart at the School of Business and Society, and very close to my heart. If you know anything about my background, I spent 5 years establishing Divine Chocolate, fair trade pioneer, and also more recently spent 6 years as trustee of the Fair Trade Foundation. So fairness and good responsible business is very close to my heart. So just moving on, I've got a few thank yous. I want to thank the Economic Social Research Council, which is part of the UK Research and Innovation. They provided us some of the funding for today's event and supported the work on the Good Business Charter. They really do tackle complex societal problems. And today is the ESRC Festival of Social Sciences. So up and down the country, there are 41 other events that are taking place, all scheduled, all focused on sustainability and complex societal challenges. Also, I want to thank our other key partner is the Good Business Charter. Julian Richer, and we've been working with them, led by Jacqueline and Nicholas Pleece, our Associate Dean for Research, looking at the impact on organisations of the Good Business Charter. And it's a groundbreaking accreditation system encouraging responsible business practices through a set of 10 key principles. Those key principles are real living wage, fairer hours and contracts, employee well-being, employee representation in terms of the governance of the organisation, equality, diversity and inclusion, environmental responsibility, paying fair tax, a commitment to customers, and ethical sourcing and prompt payment to suppliers. Having worked with supermarkets when I was at Divine Chocolate, that's very important. Prompt payment to suppliers. So those values are very close to the heart of the School for Business and Society, hence our working together. It's a pioneering accreditation system, and we're going to be talking about that today. And for me, it makes perfect business sense. Businesses are part of communities. Businesses employ people. Why should we not be responsible businesses practicing all those kind of approaches? And it fits very, very closely, this particular approach, the Good Business Charter, with the School for Business and Society and its mission. Notably, the City of York became the first ever Good Business Charter city in June 2021, and today's forum will talk about this. We will also provide insights into responsible and sustainable business practices and explore the role of businesses in shaping a sustainable future. I have the pleasure and privilege of introducing our 4 initial keynote speakers. And I must say, what a lineup. We've got 4 fantastic speakers who are going to pass on their wisdom for about 5 to 7 minutes. And our first speaker to open this important forum, and it's my honour to introduce the Lord Mayor of York, Councillor Margaret Wells. And Margaret tells me this is actually her, since becoming mayor, 201st event. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the diary? Yesterday she tells me she was at a kind of learning disability forum and at a barn dance. So the diversity of what you do is just amazing. And she's a pivotal figure representing this historic city, and she brings invaluable insights and perspectives to this forum. And what you probably didn't know is she actually is a student of the University of York. She studied social policy at the University of York, which is part of the School for Business and Society. So, Margaret, without further ado, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And from that build-up, it can only be a total disappointment. I was a little bit worried about coming here to speak because I didn't know what I could offer you. I'm not a business leader, an innovator, an investor, a business academic. I'm just an ordinary person. But what I do is I represent a lot of ordinary people. And having been born and bred in York and lived here for the last 60-odd years, I've welcomed some of the changes. I've not welcomed others, but I have an insight as to what people in York want and what we expect. I'm going to start talking about where I think our future begins, and that's actually very firmly in the past, because York's history of leadership and resilience makes it a natural hub for forward thinking. And we honour our past whilst embracing the future, and that's something that we can demonstrate so well in York. We're extremely lucky that our history has been maintained, but it's only been maintained because of poverty. When we had the Industrial Revolution, we had the cotton industry in the West Yorkshire and Lancashire, and they were knocking down all the old buildings and building these fantastic things. In York, we missed out on that and we couldn't. It's only now that we can appreciate the importance of older buildings and things. But that too brings its own heartache, because our planners now have to judge what's best. How can we preserve these buildings, and how can we plan for the future when we've got roads that were built for horse and carts? And so that's a headache that we're always trying to do. But we have been very successful in reimagining spaces. Take the space we're in, the Guildhall. Our ancestors were traders, and we used the River Ouse as a landing place. And so we built a landing place just at the back here. And then we built a lane to take the trade into the city. That was known as Common Lane. It's actually still here. It's under this building and it goes to the river. It's a bit dangerous. I have seen it. I haven't walked it though. As time moved on, we built a hall here for people. It was known as Common Hall. It wasn't a substantial hall, but that dates it back to the 1200s. And then we built this Guildhall on top of that. Because, as we've heard, the guilds wanted a meeting place, and so did the administration, the council, because that's always been a big link in York, the council and business. And we've got records dating back to when this building was first built. They were very pleased that they'd got this new building, so pleased that they rewarded the workmen with threepence to celebrate laying the foundation. If you're wondering what threepence would have bought you in the 1400s, apparently it's about 5 dozen eggs, a spade, a pillow, or more likely 16 pints of beer. Council meetings are still held on this site. That we have upstairs a very grand Victorian council chamber, which was completed in the late 1800s. And until recently, that was where we still held our council meetings. I've been in there. It's not the most accessible place, which is why we now hold our council meetings in this space here. One of the things that you might have noticed sitting here is the stained glass window. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not an original. It was put in I'm going to say, in about the 1950s. During the Second World War, York was spared from all the bombs, except for one raid, which was the Beiderbecke raids, and the Guildhall was hit. And it took 18 years to rebuild the Guildhall, and a modern stained glass window was there. It depicts 5 aspects of our city's history: war, architecture, civic affairs, commercial trade, and education. It actually cost about 21 million, I think, to do it. We've had renovations since then, and these are the ones that are so important. The Guildhall is a complex of grade 1 and 2 listed buildings, which causes problems for everyone. But what we wanted to do was to highlight our 600-year celebration of business and commerce and culture. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to incorporate that. We've tried to look at modern methods of doing this. I guess the best example in the Guildhall is the water source heat pump, which provides sustainable green energy from the River Ouse. Not only does it mean lower running costs, but it helps reduce carbon emissions. And another thing that we're proud of with the renovations is the use of the River Ouse. We use that to transport equipment and materials to avoid construction traffic going through our narrow streets. And that's really a nod to how the Guildhall started. It started on the river, and the renovations took it back to the river. And following completion, it was leased to the University of York as a centre for start-up businesses. So a hall that was built to deal with business and civic life has actually come full circle, and it now houses education, business, and the administration, because we still have our council meetings here. So what better place for your conference to take place? I'd like to say just a couple of words, if I may, about the alliance between these 3 prongs, which are beautifully illustrated in our stained glass window. The University of York, businesses, and the council. And these are the things that will shape your discussions. The university fosters a culture of research, innovation, and learning, and it has a commitment to education. It cultivates a vision and mission that not only prepares the next generation, but it educates. We need government support, and that's where the council fit in, to help us navigate to a more sustainable future. We've got a thriving business community in York, and we need these entrepreneurs in the private sector to be committed to sustainable practices. York is an ideal place for leading the development for sustainable futures. We have the factors to create a more sustainable future. We just need to pull everything together. When we look at the future, we have the university, the council, the businesses. Individually, they're all brilliant, but together, they're awesome. And we can make the changes we need. So I'd like to wish you a fruitful and worthwhile discussion today. And what more important topic can we discuss than our sustainable future? So thank you very much.
I must say, Lord Mayor, thank you for setting a wonderful tone for the remainder of the day. I picked out a key word from what you were talking about, which is reimagination, reimagining the future to be a more sustainable future, and also that wonderful story of sustainability on a scale, on a scale, the scale being the Guildhall, which was fantastic, and also the importance of collaboration came across. Public-private partnerships working together with the university. So thank you for that, Lord Mayor. Wonderful words. I have the pleasure now of introducing one of my esteemed colleagues, Professor Kiran Trehan, who's Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the University of York for Enterprises, Partnerships and Engagement. Professor Trehan is a global authority on women's entrepreneurship, known for her commitment to fostering impactful partnerships between academia and industry, and really does personify reimagining. So over to you, Kiran.
Good morning and a warm welcome, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. I want to start with the words of a song from Bruce Springsteen, and no, I haven't lost the plot, and I am at the right venue. I'm working on a dream, though sometimes it feels so far away. I'm working on a dream, and I know it will be mine someday. What do the words of a Bruce Springsteen song have to do with today's forum? Well, for me, the answer is really simple. Today is about our values, our dreams, our commitments. But that's not enough on its own. A decade of dreaming for a more sustainable future, a decade of dreaming for more responsible business, decades of research, decades of leading through the work that Julian and others in this room have done. So today I want us to take a sharp look, both at celebrating our achievements, but also being open to the challenges ahead of us. Because working on a dream has to be a collective effort. It has to be about how we shape a sustainable world where business isn't just a driver for profit, but a force for global responsibility and resilience. But why here and why now? Well, you've already heard from two of our keynote speakers about the history of York. But history is only as good as what we do with it in our present and in our future. So heritage can't be the custodian of the status quo. Heritage and history has to be a driver and a force for critical and impactful change. And so for me, I like the way that the past, the present and the future coalesce, and we're better than the Guildhall and the City of York. This was one of my very first projects during COVID when I moved to York, and it was a building site. So if we dream and if we believe, then amazing things can and do happen, as you will hear throughout the day. So let me just take a step back then and think about the purpose and our role today. York has always been a place of vision and resilience and continues to be. Its historic walls aren't simply a tourist attraction. They've witnessed so much over centuries around innovation, preservation and adaptation. So it feels very fitting that today we're exploring good business within this historical context. So the question that I want to address in the next 5 minutes is, how can business today actively shape a sustainable future? Not the good news stories, not the press coverage, but work on the ground in the everyday mundaneness of what we do. So for me, it focuses around and revolves around three critical areas: responsible business, responsible supply chains, and the interdependence of business, sustainability, and nature. But they're not isolated conversations. They are all interconnected. We're all in this room because we share a passion and a commitment to not just shaping the present and the future, but being able to contribute to what is already an increasingly fragile world and fragile businesses. So you as the audience, the business leaders, the investors, the innovators, the academics, people on the ground all have a central role to play in this journey, because each of us brings insights, expertise, and commitment to making a genuine impact. So what role does a university play? I love it when people say, I know, Kiran, but you live in that kind of ivory tower. What do you know about the real world? Well, I'm the daughter of a first-generation migrant. I'm the daughter who grew up in the East End of London, when the East End of London doesn't look like it looks like now, where you're told nothing would ever become of you. So universities, and universities like York, are a critical player in this region if we're going to drive good, responsible, sustainable business. It's not simply about the research, it's how you use that research to make a measurable difference. And you'll hear some of those examples throughout the day. It's research, it's innovation, it's practical learning. So it isn't simply about educating future leaders, it's about providing groundbreaking research that helps us address real-world challenges. It's a place where sustainability isn't just studied, it's lived, it's embedded, and it's acted on. And the School of Business and Society absolutely epitomises those values. It's in the very fabric of what they do. So if we are the leaders of today, how do we ensure the leaders of tomorrow are in this room next time round? How do we equip them with the knowledge and the tools that they need to tackle some of the most complex challenges with purpose and integrity? So our strengths don't end there. York's entrepreneurial spirit is something that is really dear to my heart. What I think is really important in the work that we do at York is its fabric, it's its ecosystem. It's where large firms, small firms, startups come together, committed to wanting to develop sustainable practices. Because it's these enterprises that are contributing bold ideas. They're the ones that are offering the practical solutions to reduce the environmental impact, making sure there's fair pay for fair work. So in many ways, what we're trying to collectively do is reshape our businesses and our industries from within. So our rich history and our traditions create a vibrant entrepreneurial and academic community. For me, York really does stand out as a place where innovation meets responsibility. It's a city where heritage fuels forward thinking, where business, academia, and government have to converge to pave the way for a more sustainable work. They can't be empty words. They have to be through our lived actions. So how does this then relate to the work of Julian Richer and Jenny and colleagues around the Good Business Charter? So for me, what sets the Good Business Charter apart is its unique power to blend ethical values with business success seamlessly in a world where many see a trade-off between integrity and growth. Profit and money are often seen as dirty words. Well, they're not, because we can't survive with one without the other. But what the Good Business Charter allows us to do is to think and imagine differently. It empowers businesses to meet their social and their environmental responsibilities. But it isn't about responsibility, it's about that's just the right thing to do. That makes good business sense. So if you're doing it because that's what's being asked of you. Don't. Do it because that's good business. So I guess as I conclude, as we engage in today's discussion, for me, this is not a sacrifice. It's an investment in a sustainable, trust-driven and resilient future. Because I want to work in a place and a city and a region where responsible business is at the very heart of what we do. I want to work in an institution that walks the talk, that has purpose and is purposeful. So today, I guess I ask you to do two things. That today we're not here to talk and do more talking. We do a lot of that in York. I hope what we're here to do today is to share, inspire and drive real change, because the future of sustainable business isn't a distant horizon. It's a choice that we make, but we have to make together. And so my ask is, today I hope we create a future where integrity, responsibility and prosperity go hand in hand, because that's what good business is. And I guess it really is time for action, because to talk means we're not ready, and that's so much easier. So today has to be about action. It's a moment in time opportunity for us not to just build a responsible future, but to build a footprint and a legacy for generations to come. And for me, it's a form of activism, because not only does it capture the intellectual agenda, it also is about engaging with the hearts and minds of the communities that shape us and are served by us, and we have a responsibility to do. So today I'm asking you to do three things. I want you to deliberately be designed to be different in your businesses. I hope we see things differently, and most of all, I hope we make a measurable difference through the work that we do and the impact that we make. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran, for those inspiring words. And you are a kind of leader in building partnerships between the university and the public and the private sector, and you do an amazing job in doing that. And these kind of events are a result of that work. So thank you for that. I have the pleasure of introducing our third speaker of the morning, the amazing Julian Richer. Julian is a prominent English entrepreneur, philanthropist and author, and celebrated as the founder and managing director of Richer Sounds Retailers. Now, I was sitting down in my living room last night, looking around, and I have a Wi-Fi, I have a music system, sound system from Richer Sounds, a widescreen TV from Richer Sounds, a digital radio from Richer Sounds, very high quality products, and a really, really amazing high street retailer. But beyond his achievements, he's also a passionate advocate for ethical capitalism and social responsibility, having founded the Good Business Charter to promote responsible business practices. His dedication to sustainability and social justice has led to his impactful work in areas including human rights, animal welfare, social housing, and the fight against injustice. And you would have seen outside when you registered his amazing book, The Ethical Capitalist. I must recommend you do read that. It's a really, really lived experience read with some visionary ideas. And just a shout out for his amazing column in the Sunday Times. And this week, do read it, because it's got a very, very interesting analysis of some forthcoming policy changes in the housing market. Over to you, Julian. Thank you.
What an introduction. If I need an agent, Bob, you're the man. No, fantastic. How kind. Quick thank yous, because I thought I was a good negotiator. I started with a 3-hour slot and ended up with 7 minutes, so I've got to be quick. But huge thanks to Jacqueline for arranging the event, for Bob for the lovely introduction, for Kiran, for Nicholas' support he's given us, the the Lord Mayor coming along today, and speakers and guests. So, wow, responsible business, absolute foundation stone for a sustainable future, I believe. I'll give you a quick background and let you understand where I've come from here. I'm not an academic, as you probably gather. I don't know if you can hear me all right. Is that okay? Can you hear me at the back? Fantastic. So I started in business when I was 14. My parents encouraged it because they didn't have a lot of money, and opened my first shop at 19, and it grew into a national chain of electronics stores. And thanks to the business, Bob, I need the money. Very kind. And it's a really tough environment. Consumer electronics, ferociously competitive, actually, and a lot of our competitors have gone to the wall. We have a couple of modest claims to fame. We're in the Guinness Book of Records for the highest sales per square foot of any retailer in the world. We have a gender pay gap in favour of women, very unusual in our sector. The Which Consumers Association have voted us the best retailer in the land of any kind for 6 years, the last 6 years in a row. But the most important one I'm proud of is that we give 15% of our profits to charity. That's the highest percentage, as far as we know, in the country of any business. And we've got teams out there doing terrific work, not least the team, the Good Business Charter, some of whom are here today. So I guess I've been through 50 years of business, and I guess I've learned a lot. I've survived dramas and crises and ups and downs and recessions. The overriding thing I've learned, though, is all about the people. And what I mean by that is you'll see a completely different output from people depending on how you treat them. And a turning point for me, I've got my stopwatch running, by the way, don't worry, I will stick to 7 minutes. But I read a book in 1982 by two academics called In Search of Excellence. I was 23 then. In Search of Excellence by Tom Peters and Rob Waterman. And they analysed the most successful business in the States. And they discovered that the only things they had in common is that they treated their staff well and their customers well. Who knew, right? Anyway, it was the eureka moment for me. And I took a microscope and knife to my little business and rebuilt it. And profits went north. And I was really pleased to have read that book. I settled down in the business, and a few years later, this guy moved to Yorkshire, to Leeds, who didn't know many people up here. His name was Archie Norman, and he'd come to turn around Asda, the supermarket chain, which was in a shocking state, on the edge of bankruptcy. And a mutual friend said he should meet me. And I had a bit of a quirky reputation when I was in my 20s for doing some, unusual stuff. Anyway, he invited me to work with him at Asda. I went in 92, and we did hundreds of things. I won't take credit for lots of things like logistics, IT, distribution, but I was very involved in the people stuff. I'm talking about customer service, staff motivation, cultural change, communications, and suggestion schemes. And what we discovered was the things that we'd done in our little business, mostly young guys selling stereos, worked with their 70,000 colleagues, as we renamed them. They used to be called management and staff. And I said, no, we're all together here. Let's call them colleagues. And they do, to this day, they still call them that. Anyway, it worked really well, and he turned the business around, and in 1999 he sold it to Walmart for £6.7 billion. I think it's the biggest turnaround in British retail history to this time. So a great experience. I wrote a book about it called The Richer Way. It was just talking about how to get the best out of people, because I'd seen it work in a tiny business and a huge business, and I knew I really felt I was onto something. In that book, I didn't bring any of those today, but it's been out 30 years, and it still sells very well. Then I started researching capitalism, went back to my business, and I discovered that capitalism has been pretty awful through history. I've got 3 minutes left, by the way, in case you think I'm going on too much. But capitalism's been responsible for thousands of years through exploitation, colonialism, slavery, pollution, dreadful, 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 often based on greed and not much else. But I did feel there was another type of capitalism, and this was certainly the capitalism that I was, as we call it, responsible business now, that I was trying to advocate. And good capitalism it's not a black and white situation. I do believe there are two types, and good capitalism, or responsible business as we now call it, can provide decent quality jobs, products and services we love, we enjoy, not exploit staff, not rip off customers, and pay taxes for the hospitals and schools we so badly need. So that's the capitalism I support and I like, and I wrote a book about how society needs to differentiate between these two types. And I've done it from a position not of academic brilliance, clearly, but from actually doing it for a long, long time. Now, not only do I sort of think it's the right thing to do, not only do I sleep better at night, but it's made my business really successful in a really tough environment by paying staff a bit more, by going the extra mile for customers, by being honest in all the dealings we have with, we call them stakeholders, all the different groups we come into contact with. So having written the book, I've got just under 2 minutes left. Having written the book, and by the way, I bought a few copies here today, so they're completely free. With my compliments, if you'd like a copy, take one with pleasure. Help us spread the word. But I then felt, rather than writing about it, I wanted to do a bit more. And I felt that the public wanted to support responsible business. And we've discovered since that the TSB did some fantastic work on this, and they discovered 97% of the public want to spend their money with responsible businesses, but they don't know who they are, because the bad guys don't say, don't shop with us, we don't pay our tax. So we needed a signpost. And I felt very strongly about this, to differentiate, to recognise good business practice, and to send customers to those great businesses. So I came up with the idea of the Good Business Charter, got the CBI and TUC in a room. They'd not been in a room much before, and they worked together really well. And I dragged Jenny in, who's the most wonderful, fantastic, talented person, worked with me on some other products, and I sort of encouraged her to build it up and take it on, which she very kindly agreed to do, and she's been amazing. So that's a bit about the Good Business Charter. It's, as we've heard already from Bob, it's got 10 components, and it's a high bar, and we're proud of that, because we want customers, the public, to know that if you see a Good Business Charter organisation, you know that it's passed the test of all 10 components. We don't let them in organisations in with just 5. So how are we doing? Right, I better wrap up. I'm terribly sorry. Anyway, that's the Good Business Charter. I've gone on over a minute. I'm really sorry, but I felt this is important. I want to thank you all for your support. If you're not a Good Business Charter organisation already, please come and join us. If you're a member of the public and you don't have a business, look out for Good Business Charter organisations. Thank you very much for coming here today and for listening to me. Thank you. Sorry.
Wow, fantastic, Julian. It's a great example of how you integrate successful, making profit with being responsible and ethical. It's just a perfect case study. So thank you very much. And Julian became an honorary graduate of the University of York in 2022. And I know, Kiran, you had the honour of doing the speech. And you were a great friend of the university and a great friend to me. And thank you for all that. And thank you for being with us today. Last but by no means least, and this guy has got, if you've got a busy diary, come and have a look at James Farrar's diary, because he's Chief Executive of the new combined York and North Yorkshire Mayoral Authority. And there's been a brainchild behind devolution here in the region. And there's a lot of expectation and responsibility that comes with that. You've got a new government, a Labour government that wants economic growth plans to come from the region. And James is a champion. He really is a champion of public-private partnerships, of delivering innovation, reimagining the future. And there is no better person to steer the new combined mayoral authority during the next phase of economic history in York and North Yorkshire and the UK. And without further ado, we're so delighted you're with us, because I know how busy you are. Over to you, James. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. So hopefully most of you know that we elected a mayor in York and North Yorkshire in May this year. David Scaife is your first elected mayor, and my job is to put into action his kind of desires and what his vision for the region is. I think today is really, really important for a number of reasons, because one of the really things that stood out when David came in was we were looking at driving the economic growth and that economic agenda, and we were looking at transport, we were looking at housing, we were looking at business, and he put community at the heart of it. So the first thing he did, that understanding that we want to drive the well-being of York and North Yorkshire, but to drive that economic well-being, you need to get your communities right. It's about people, it's about well-being, it's about those communities. So now as a combined authority, and we're just coming up to 6 months in with the mayor, every decision we make, everything we look at it in the context of what impact does that have on the communities of York and North Yorkshire. I think that's been a really refreshing change for us as an organisation, in that we're there to drive growth and there to make a difference, but actually putting people at the heart of it is really, really important. And I think there's 2 things I'd like to just kind of talk about this morning. And firstly is a really positive experience that we've just had. So the mayor's just recruited his business board to advise him on how we kind of drive that growth. And we've recruited a board which stretches from Scarborough to Skipton, It's got large corporates down to startups, and it's got manufacturing, it's got digital and creatives, and a whole raft of different sectors around it. And one thing stood out in those interviews. So these are like the best business leaders in the region. None of them talked about profit. None of them talked about growth. They talked about people. They talked about how they get the best out of their people by looking after them, by their well-being. They talked about the sustainability agenda and how they're at the forefront of that sustainability, because they understand that if you get those bits right, the profit and the growth happens. It's not the other way around. You don't generate profit and therefore decide to look after your people. You look after your people, you do business in the right way, and then as a consequence, your customers will be happier, your staff will be more motivated and therefore more productive, and therefore you will be more successful as a business. And we interviewed, so we had over 100 applications, we interviewed over 30, and it was the one common factor across every sector, wherever they came from in York and North Yorkshire, that all these business leaders talked about. So when we're here today talking about the importance of sustainable business, actually we're not talking about it because it's the right thing to do. We're talking about it because it's what's going to drive the success of your business. It's what's going to drive the success of York and North Yorkshire. And as a combined authority, that's what we're here to do. We know that the success of York and North Yorkshire will be delivered by the businesses. Jobs are created by growing businesses. And actually, those growing businesses are telling us that they grow by treating their staff well, by operating in a sustainable way and good business practices. So as a combined authority, we're absolutely behind today's agenda. And we understand that the economic future of York and North Yorkshire has been driven by sustainable business, and the future of York and North Yorkshire will be driven by even more sustainable business. And then that then moves on to the second side of things, and that's what we're trying to do as a region is understand, where do we have a genuine competitive advantage? Where does it make sense to come to York and North Yorkshire rather than going to Manchester or to Leeds or to anywhere else in the UK? And actually the overwhelming thing, and when we've identified our growth priorities where we are nationally significant, is about our natural assets and how we make the most of our natural assets. Now, whether that's food and farming at one end, whether that's then relating to the bioeconomy at the other end, or actually whether that's around our historic heritage and the culture and the innovation that can be derived from those, actually the assets that we have in York and North Yorkshire make us very, very distinctive and actually will underpin lots of the major growth opportunities that we have in the future. So we don't look at our fields and our wonderful kind of dales and moors and agricultural land and just see it as a beautiful kind of landscape. We see it as an economic driver. We understand that by investing in the natural assets of a region, you will deliver growth, you will deliver sustainability, and you'll deliver welfare and better communities across the whole of our patch. So one of the first things the new government, obviously we had a Labour government as well, the government told us to do was to identify our priorities for our 10-year growth plan. And we identified 5 priorities. And they are about digital, but digital linked to our natural assets and the infrastructure and our creative. They're about sustainable places and delivering those. But then it's about food and farming, it's about the bioeconomy, and it's about clean energy. So it's all about making the most of what we have. And the Mayor today talked about the history and the heritage of this wonderful building and the city of York. You can look at York as a historic city, or you can look at York as an innovation playground. Just imagine the stories that you can tell, what's happened, and some of the stories we heard this morning that our digital creatives can now tell about the city of York. Is there a better place in the world, a better playground, if you're in that industry with which to grow your business? So you've got a city which is steeped in kind of good principles, in social well-being, and you've got these incredible stories that you can tell. So we want to position York and North Yorkshire as the heartbeat of digital and creative technology to really drive some of those opportunities going forwards. But we also want to position York and North Yorkshire to make the most of its natural assets around the bioeconomy, around the future of food. Food and energy security are 2 of the biggest global challenges. And they're 2 of the biggest global challenges where the answers, or many of those answers, can lie in York and North Yorkshire. So by following sustainable business practices, by looking at our natural assets as a real innovation opportunity in what we can do, that is what the future of our economy will look like. And it won't just make York and North Yorkshire successful, it will make the whole of the UK successful on a global scale. And so we think we have a really distinctive place in our region, in our country as York and North Yorkshire. We think we're very different to West Yorkshire and to Manchester and the West Midlands because we have assets that they don't have, and we have a capability that they don't have. Now, we understand that to take advantage of that, as a combined authority, we are just an enabler. So the Mayor and our team, we're just there to enable it. The ideas, the solutions, they will come from you. They will come from the private sector and that partnership with the university. And we've already heard today, we heard Kiran talk about the importance of action. And I want to see that action out of it. So my message today is enjoy today. I think it's really, really important. It's fundamental to the future well-being of the whole of the York and North Yorkshire economy. It's what makes us different, and it's how we're going to position ourselves for the future. But the outcome of today has got to be action. It has got to be, what are those opportunities for York and North Yorkshire? What are the opportunities that we can get together, we can collaborate, and we can make happen? And how, if we all follow good business practices, if we all follow the sustainability agenda, how do we create that opportunity to really drive new opportunities for businesses and for people across the region? And if that can be the outcome from today, my promise to you is that we'll get behind you, we'll back it, and we'll help make sure it happens, and we'll put it at the heart of our plans. So please use today as a stimulus, use today as not just an opportunity to have good conversations, but use today as the platform of the opportunity to come away with some very clear actions that can make York and North Yorkshire the absolute best playground in the whole of the world for good business and sustainable business practices. And that's what I'd like to see as the outcome when we get to the end of today. Thank you.